Good morning, y'all. This is Trish with another dish this morning. So today, I want to do a little experiment. I am a curious person by nature. I like to research things, and if I'm cooking, I like to cook it the best way I can cook it, and so I'm always looking at recipes and adjusting and this kind of thing. But anyway, I love biscuits, but then who again isn't partial to biscuits? But and I love butter biscuits. So I decided I wanted to do a test between white Lilly flour, which is what's most popular in this part of the South, and King Arthur. I've used King Arthur for years, but in my research, I've been doing some Danish pastries lately, so I've been looking into protein content, because the higher protein content is more for breads, and the lower protein percentage is for pastries. So pastries are usually around 8% protein. Pastry flour is. White Lilly all-purpose flour really surprised me when I researched that. It is 9%. And that's the all-purpose is 9% protein. And the King Arthur is just under 11% protein. So I like to use all-purpose flour and add my baking powder. So I'm looking at comparing just all-purpose flour. So anyway, I decided that I would do biscuits using one batch, make King Arthur, make everything exactly the same except flour, and just see how it differed. So that's what we're doing this morning. And we're going to start out with cold ingredients, good cold ingredients. And I had my butter in the freezer for a little while this morning to get it good and cold. And of course, I've just gotten my buttermilk out. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by loosening up our flour a little bit. I don't sift my flour. I'd rather use scant cups and then add a little more at the end if I need to. But right now I'm going to measure this flour. We're going to do 4 cups. Now this recipe is 4 cups of flour, 2 cups of buttermilk, and I use full fat buttermilk, don't cut any corners with biscuits, and 2 tablespoons of, oh, I got baking soda out. That's not right. It's got to be baking powder. Okay, here we go. Baking powder. And 2 teaspoons of salt. So, and 2 sticks of butter, 4 cups of flour. I don't know if I said that. All right, so here we go. We're going to measure our flour, and get a big spoon here and put it in my cup. It doesn't pack down quite as bad, and I did stir this up with the whisk before I started. So there's 1 cup. And I'm using the food processor. I use that to mix my cold hard butter and the flour. And then I put it in my bowl and mix my buttermilk in it. Okay, that's a nice light cup right there. And this will make 3. I'm getting older and find it a little harder to talk and count at the same time, if some of you know what I'm talking about. Okay, and this will be the 4th cup. I make biscuits. I won't be cooking but about 4 from each batch. And I freeze them. Okay, that's 4 cups. All right, so we're gonna set this flour over here out of the way. Okay, now I am in the middle of cutting this butter here. Put it in and finish cutting. And I'm just cutting slices of butter. It might work just to throw the whole 2 sticks in there, but it seems like to me there's no need in that. So, this recipe you can easily half. I don't usually because, like I said, I freeze it. That was my phone. Some kind of reminder went off. I meant to turn the sound down on it. But my husband is out this morning. He went to the grocery store. So he's liable to call. We live just down about a half a mile from Ingalls, here in Clayton. And so it is not a problem running to the grocery store, which is nice. I've never been that close to a grocery store, and it is really, really, really nice. Okay, now, I've got that, and I did mean to pulse the salt and the baking powder in the food processor before I put the baking powder in. And I forgot that. So I'm going to sprinkle it around. And like I said, it is 2 tablespoons of baking powder in this 4 cups of flour. Okay, now that gets that. So let's put our lid on. And let's pulse it. And you just want to pulse it until that butter is nice and cut in smaller pieces like the size of peas or something. So let's see how it's doing here. Let's see. I see some uneven pieces, so let's do a couple more pulses. Okay, that ought to do it. Now, I'll just set this over here at the sink. And we'll set this aside. Okay, now we're going to get our bowl here. And we'll lift out this blade, get it out of the way. And just pour it in there, in the bowl. Okay, that looks really good. Yeah, that's nice, and got that butter worked in there in little bitty lumps. It's good and cold. Now we'll make a little bit of bowl here. And we'll mix this flour up. It's going to be real interesting to me to see how this turns out. Like I said, I was really surprised that white Lilly had such a low protein content. In fact, making danishes is what got me started getting this white Lilly. I said, well, if pastry flour, which is what I like to have to make Danish, but it's hard to find. And it's 8%, and this white Lilly all-purpose is 9%. Well, that's pretty darn close. So I used that, and my Danish did turn out just beautifully. Now, we don't want to mix this an awful lot. We just want to mix it till it comes together, because we want a tender, flaky biscuit. And of course, we're going to do them both the same way. There goes my little dog. Okay, that's a common occurrence around here. She heard something. Okay, now this is looking pretty good. Okay, just make sure all your dry ingredients are worked in. Okay. Okay, now, that looks good. So, I'm going to wipe this off here. Put this spoon away. Now, I've got my little flour shaker here. And I'm going to sprinkle it on the counter, because I am going to roll these out. Now, you don't have to roll them out. You can do them by hand. If you want to, that's fine. I do need one more thing though. I need a little flour in my bowl here. Okay. Now, and on my hands too. Okay, so we're just going to dump it out. And we're going to sprinkle a little more flour on top. It's fairly loose, nice and moist, so that extra flour ain't going to hurt a thing. And it keeps it from sticking to my hands so bad, and the counter. Okay, now we just want to get it smooth, fold it a couple of times. Not too much. We don't want to overwork it. Okay, now sprinkle a little more flour. Now we're going to roll these out to about 3/4 of an inch thick. Just gently roll. You know, when I start making biscuits and rolling them out like this, I start thinking about how good they're going to taste and how I want them to be just as good as they can be. And it makes me so gentle with them. Okay, now, here we go, my biscuit cutter. I'm going to dip it in the flour and cut, and well, let's see. I got my little biscuit pan here. Like I said, I'm not going to make but 3 or 4 per batch. I got a little oil on it, and I'm going to roll it around. This is my mama's little biscuit pan, and it's probably seen better days, or maybe the better days are yet to come. I don't know, but anyway, we're going to put some biscuits there, and I've got to get something for the rest of them too. Got this pretty little copper pan my cousin gave me that I just love. Okay, now, here we go. I'm going to pull that biscuit out and put it down. flour. These are nice and soft biscuits, which is going to make them good and light and tender. Don't worry about trying to get it so dry that it doesn't stick to your hands. If you do that, you might wind up with a dry biscuit. Okay, I'll put one there. All right. I'm going to put 3 in Mama's little pan. That way I'll only have 6 for Jack and I to eat. We're going to be as big as the broadside of a barn. But what a way to go. Okay. Now, there we go, and I still got another pan to do. What we're going to do now is I'm going to put these in the oven. I'm going to use my little convection oven over here, which I really, really love. It is a cooking little monster. And I'm going to cook them at 400 in this little convection oven. And then I'm going to put together the next batch using King Arthur flour. And we'll be back shortly. If I can stop this video with this mess all over my hands. Okay, so we're back, and we are back to the point. I've just taken the King Arthur flour mixture with the butter and the baking powder and salt out of the food processor. So we're about to add our milk, but our biscuits from the white Lilly flour are just about to come out of my little oven. And there goes my little dog. So, here are those biscuits. Okay, they are very pretty, and they rose good. So I'm just going to take these off here. So one thing about this little aluminum pan, it does give a nice crunchy bottom. Okay, so now we're going to finish this batch. And by the way, in this little convection oven, these biscuits cook in exactly 12 minutes. And oddly enough, it doesn't matter if they're frozen solid or freshly made, they cook in the same amount of time, which doesn't make a bit of sense to me, but I don't guess it has to. But they have cooked in 12 minutes. Now, I'm going to get these others going, and I want to see, I'm really curious even to see how the dough compares. I mean, really, unless you're a test kitchen or like me and don't have anything else to do and are curious, when would you get the opportunity to do this? Because unless you compare them side by side, you can't really know if the texture is the same or as good or whatever. Okay, now I've put that. Now just right here, right off the bat, it looks like to me, this looks like more flour, but we're going to see as I mix it up. I did everything the same. But this is really looking like I'm going to have to add a little more buttermilk. That would be interesting. Oh yeah, I know that. I know that without going any further. We're going to have to add a little more buttermilk. So, I'm just going to pour, so I can keep up with it, I'm going to use about another 1/4 cup first and see how that does. This is really surprising. It looks like a lot more biscuits. Okay, I think we're going to be able to work with this now. Let's see. Let's cap my buttermilk. Put this out of the way. You know, I mentioned that if you didn't have anything better to do, which I don't, I have found during this time of the pandemic that cooking, I cook more than ever, and I really do enjoy it. I've always enjoyed cooking, but I have really enjoyed experimenting, and I want to encourage you to do it. Get in the kitchen. Don't be bored and stay in front of the TV all the time. Get in the kitchen and cook up something you've never cooked before. It's fun and tasty, and you learn stuff like we're doing on this flour. This is a real interesting thing to me to see how this is going to turn out. Get it to come together here, and it's doing all right. I think we'll sprinkle a little bit more flour. Okay, now, that's looking pretty good. I think we can work with it on the counter now pretty easily. Okay, so let's put our flour on the counter and get some of this off our hands. In fact, maybe I'll wash them real quick. Get it all off. Waste not, want not. Okay. That's it. Hands washed. Here we go. Dry them off, and let me put this buttermilk up. I don't like for milk to stay out on my counter. Okay, now put a little more flour down here. Now, I just want to, we're going to stay on here long enough to see how this rolls out and if it rolls out any differently. I declare it really does look like it's going to be more biscuits with this higher percentage protein flour. I don't really understand that, but then I'm not a chemist either. Okay, so we're going to pat it out. And you don't really need a rolling pin. You could pat it out, but I'm thinking a rolling pin might be a little gentler. I see my little chunks of butter in here. Okay, now. You know, cooking really is a fun pastime. I can really get into it, get lost in it. Those Danishes I made took so much rolling and folding and laminating butter and folding and rolling, and it was fun. I told my cousin Shirley it was just therapy. She said she didn't need as much therapy, obviously, as I did, so she's probably right. Okay, so here we go. Nice little biscuit, just like the others. I'm going to get 3 on my pan. Let me turn on my oven over here. Get it going, and my pans have my other biscuits in them from the last batch, so I'm going to have to get more pans. But right now, we're going to get these 3 in the oven, and I'm going to finish this, and then we'll be back shortly to see how they all turned out and how they're different. That'll be fun. See you later. Okay, so we're back, and this second set of biscuits is about to come out of the oven. So let's see what we've got. Okay, so here's this one. They even browned a little more at the same time. So what I'm going to do is put them side by side so you can see. And there you go. Now, oddly enough, they were the same size. Now this again, this is the White Lilly batch of biscuits, and this is the King Arthur flour batch of biscuits. Now, they were cut out the same amount, used the exact same ingredient recipe, and these cooked up higher. These flattened out some because they used the same biscuit cutter. Now, a lot of people will tell you that you need to put them in a pan with sides on it, and that makes the biscuits cook straight up. Well, I don't agree with that. Obviously, this is a good example right here. So, now I will tell you, these biscuits, the dough was a little softer when I mixed it up, as you saw, than these were. This, I even had to add a little more buttermilk, an additional 1/4 cup of buttermilk to be able to get them to come together. And even then, I still had some loose flour in the bottom of the pan when I turned them out to work them up. So, very interesting. Now, I haven't broken them apart, so we're going to see. Now that just breaks open in 2 and is just as flaky as it can be and smoking hot. Okay, now let's take another one of these and we can break it apart. Now it's been sitting there and cool, but it still breaks apart. And you can see it's just as flaky as that one. So let's taste test, okay? So I'm gonna break a piece off of this White Lilly. Good biscuit. Now, to be exact here, we all know that a cold biscuit or a warm biscuit tastes entirely different than a hot biscuit right out of the oven. So we gotta allow for that too. But right now, it seems to me that the King Arthur biscuit cooked up higher, and the browning factor is surprising to me because I use the same amount of butter in both of them. They're both good biscuits, but I'm thinking, they're both good biscuits. So, I wouldn't throw either of them in the trash can, I can tell you that. And I don't think anybody would. So, 6 of one, half dozen of the other is what I say. So you try it and see what you think. Thanks for joining me today and hope you enjoyed this little test. See you later.